After Viola Davis made history last year when she was crowned the first African American to win an Emmy for Best Actress in a Drama, debates followed at dinner tables and on social media about how Black women see themselves and how they are projected in mainstream media. Who controls the narrative, and how does media influence the education or miseducation of young Black women?
Well, here to share their own perspectives are two media makers whose projects touch on some of those issues. Asha Boston organizes local empowerment workshops and conversations with teen girls of color. She's also the president and CEO of her own production company and has worked with AMC and BET networks. Welcome to BK Live.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're also pleased to have a woman who is no stranger to the mass media world, having spent 15 years as a beauty editor at media giants Elle and Glamour and Essence.com, of course. She's only 15 herself, but Tia Williams is now an author of several books and is the copy director at Bumble and Bumble, a global hair care brand, of course. Welcome to BK Live.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Some samples with you.
I didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Well, that was
Back to Asha.
Well, both of you tell us about the projects you're working on now. Let's start with you, Asha.
Sure. Well, again, Asha Boston, journalist and documentarian, and I have a project entitled The Dinner Table. The Dinner Table is a 5-part documentary series that's aimed to debunk, uplift, and inspire young women of color to share their truth and share their stories in a documentary platform. We also offer workshops for high school and college students about media literacy and self-esteem building workshops.
Very cool.
Asha, I think we actually have a clip about at the dinner table. Let's see that now.
A lot of people ask, what is the dinner table? The dinner table. One big room full of not just beautiful Black women and Black men, but people of color coming together to talk about what it means to be multidimensional in this space and place and time. It's a celebration of who we are and living to our fullest potential and doing things that you don't usually see on television.
I'm a K-pop artist, which is a Korean pop singer. I just finished the internship with Nylon Magazine. I relaunched my website, Nieces of Craft. I want to have my own show called Designing with Danny on HGTV.
The women seen speaking aren't strangers to the crowd. They're actually all the stars of the Dinner Table's first documentary within the series, which aims to share stories and expand the narrative for Black women on television.
All right, so we've got TV and the web covered, and you have on the bookshelves right now.
Well, in April.
In April?
Yes.
Okay,
I
we're
have
counting the minutes.
Yes, my 4th novel coming out. It's called The Perfect Find. And there it is. It's about a 40-year-old former fashion magazine editor, superstar, who has like this magical life, and then in one nightmare week sort of loses it all. She gets fired, and her fiance dumps her, and then she sort of loses all her money and has to completely reinvent herself at this online fashion zine where she's working with a bunch of millennials who think she's a dinosaur. Like, she doesn't even have Facebook. And so she's, right? And so she's completely in over her head. And then she also finds herself having a secret romance with the 22-year-old guy at work.
Saucy.
Yeah, how much of this is autobiographical?
I cannot reveal.
Okay,
We want to
an author never reveals. An author never reveals.
So you guys are just two of the voices that are out there, and it seems like against a tidal wave of other influences that are coming, particularly at young women of color, whether they're showing them one image or ignoring them completely. So how do you intend to disrupt that landscape?
Well, we do it by creating the seat at the table. There's this old ideology that, you know, in order for someone to have access to resources and opportunity, you give them a seat at the table. Well, we actually do that. We create the space for them to share their truth and share their voice, not just through documentaries, but through live events. We host dinners where we bring high school students and college students and professionals into the room for a night of very intimate networking. And we just recently had a panel on President's Day entitled The Miseducation of Black Girls in New York City, where we had 6 young women. All of them were Black, but they were from different schooling experiences, so from private, public, and charter schools, just sharing their truth about what it's like to be, you know, a young Black girl in New York City.
Very cool.
Excellent.
So looking at you and those bookshelves over there, you've been on both sides of this equation, reflecting beauty and influencing it at lots of glamorous places and also adding your voice as an individual through your books. How do you see the media landscape, particularly as it relates to young women of color now?
Well, I think in terms of books, it's not the best time to be a Black female writer when you're talking about women's commercial fiction. It's not the most diverse landscape right now. That's why a lot of authors are self-publishing and looking to alternative ways of publishing. Right. For me, my whole goal with writing always is to tell the stories we don't see about ourselves. You know, I am a total dork who is also a film geek who loves makeup and has spent her career working at fashion magazines. I don't see anyone telling that story about a Black woman, and so I write novels about quirky, weird, sexy, messy, you know, witty Black women like me and my friends. Right. And so I think it's really important to you know, sort of speak your truth, and if you can't be what you don't see. Right. So I feel like if I can inspire another geek that loves makeup and loves to write, you know, sort of like.
Tell us about Shake Your Beauty.
Oh yeah, so well, in 2004, I started one of the very first beauty blogs. I didn't even know what a blog was. There was maybe like
you made it up.
1.5 other beauty blogs at the time, and I had this career writing beauty for magazines, and when I left magazines to focus more on writing books, I still wanted to I loved writing beauty, and I missed having that voice, and my agent was kind of like, there's this thing called blogging. Do that.
Just do it.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. And there was no social media, and I remember at the time, like when I wrote my first blog, I got the word out by like sending a mass email. You know, and it just, yeah, it kind of happened organically.
So Asha, looking at a landscape like that where a professional can flex her muscles and get on and do a blog in its infancy, and you're also using the internet to really level the playing field as well. How has technology sort of equalized and changed things where you don't need to get greenlit anymore? You can self-publish, make a blog, get a YouTube channel.
Oh yes, it definitely has helped a lot of creatives my age find that voice and begin sharing it and finding other people who can relate. For the dinner table, it has definitely helped me realize that there are Black girls globally who are awake and just ready to talk about all of these things, but we just need to find that means of connection, and the internet provides that space. Just last month, we got in contact from girls from Hong Kong and in Brussels, and you know, just different places all over the world, just ready to engage in the dialogue that we set forth. And then also just seeing filmmakers like Issa Rae and Jamila Biggs, and also Cecile Amique, who has a series entitled Strolling that also kind of goes into identity and, you know, being Black and navigating through space and place and time. The internet just provides a fantastic space.
Sisters doing it for themselves.
Yes, we are.
What impact do you both hope to have specifically on young Black women?
Well, like I said before, about you can't really be what you don't see. I feel like it's really important just to show, I don't know, I'm just going to say it. I feel like in publishing and in films too, a lot of times we're slaves and maids, and these are kind of the roles in the books that get a lot of attention, like big race stories. If you look at the movies that are nominated for Oscars, when we get nominated for Oscars, you know, it's like 12 years. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, right. And I feel like we need to see our everyday stories, like the stories about me and you and our friends and all the girls we know, and you know, the friends that we have. And if you look out there and you don't see the stories being told, it's our responsibility to tell them. And as a writer, that's kind of like my leave behind. Like if that's your art and if that's the way you get across, you know, your truth to the world, then you have to tell your story.
Right. Asha, what goes on in your workshops?
Well, in our workshops, we introduce, you know, the timeline for what it's looked like for shows for Black women who are protagonists in their own television shows on TV. So we start in the 1950s with Beulah, we move on to Julia, Give Me a Break, and we go all the way up to kind of like Being Mary Jane and How to Get Away with Murder. And, you know, even though it's been over 50 years of television, when you total the shows that have Black women as the protagonists, there's only been about 15. And that's very problematic. And then when you think about, you you know, the Black women in friend groups, shows like Living Single or 227, it's been less than 10. And you see a shift in 2006 because of reality television. House of Atlanta has really changed the game, and I think it woke up so many, not just networks, but also brands and advertisers that Black women are consumers and we love seeing ourselves. And so reality television has catapulted into its own ball game. But again, what we try to do is we say if you can't beat them, join them. So in our documentary, we take the addictive qualities of reality television and we turn it on its head and we make healthy images.
Awesome. Healthy images. We can use a lot more of those. We had a whole panel about that. You can go again to our YouTube channel and check out the Black Women in Media panel that we ran here. But we're out of time. We thank you so much for coming by. We'll see you on the web and on the bookshelves in April. What's the name of the book again?
The Perfect Find.
The Perfect Find. All right, and you can check out the dinner table.
Yes.